Hi everyone, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. Ah, boy. Well, today has been kind of a day already, and it's like nothing bad has happened, but like everything's just kind of like not going quite right. And I meant to film this hours ago, but it's like, oh, I had to do this, and then I had to do this, and then I forgot I had to do this, and now this is being weird, and I don't know. It's just been a day. It's been a day. I'll be glad when I have this done, and I've got all my shit done for the day, and I can just worry about nothing. I'm here today with the books that I read. Oh my god, I read some fucking books this month. What month is it? April? I read some books in April. I read 15 books this month. I guess technically I read 14 books and I got halfway through one and I DNF'd it. So I think that might be my first DNF of the year. Maybe. That's okay. Sometimes it happens. 4 of these books were off my TBR. One was a reread. I had 2 books from the ALC program through Libro FM. I had 3 books that came from the library and 2 ARCs that I read this month. In total, I read 4,537 pages, which is about 151 pages per day. I have a goal this year to read. Oh my gosh, I always forget. What the heck is wrong with me? I think my goal was to read 40,000 pages this year. So my running total for that is 25,930 left. So after this month, I have 21,393 pages until I reach my goal. The genres I read this month were mostly horror. There were 6 horror books, 2 fantasy. I read a lot of true crime this month, 4 true crime books. I read a thriller, one that's kind of like Southern Gothic, and then one that I guess I would consider more like general or literary fiction than any sort of real genre fiction. We'll get to that, obviously. The oldest book I read was published in 1985, and then the others were much more recent. I read a book published in 2005, one from 2013, one from 2016, 3 that were published in 2020, and then 8 books that were published in 2022. Holy cow. I also like to keep track of the series that I'm reading, so I don't just start like 10 series in a month, because I'm very good at like not finishing series that I want to. There are obviously some, like one this month, where I don't think I'll continue on with it. So there's one of those, but then also I finished a series this month. I read the last book in a series that I've been reading for like 3 years, and I'm just so glad. I feel like a little burden has been lifted off my shoulders. So there's that. As far as the age ranges go, I read 1 young adult book and 14 books that are for an adult audience. There was 1 ebook, 4 audiobooks, and 11 physical books. 1 was a graphic novel, 2 of them were novellas, and 12 of them were novel-length books. Okay, and now on to the books that I don't have physically here with me, because if I don't do those first, we all know, let's say it together, I will forget. There we go, okay. First I'll talk about the 2 books that I read. I got these from Libro FM. It's part of a program that I was accepted into where influencers, that's me now, I guess, can choose from a couple different audiobooks each month. Last month there was only one that, last month was the first month that I did it, and last month there was only one that really interested me. This month there were 2, one that I picked up because I had heard of it, and the other one I hadn't heard of at all, but it was a true crime book. And this one was called Trailed, and this was by Kathryn Miles. This one comes out this month. Let me see, when did it come out? I should, have all that here for you. Oh, just kidding. This comes out May 3rd. So it comes out at the very beginning of next month. And I will tell you that this was a really interesting true crime book, and I got the audio experience, which I enjoyed. The narrator was great. I feel like I'm less picky about a narrator for a nonfiction book because, they don't have to differentiate between different characters really or anything like that. Of course they still have to be interesting, and this narrator was perfect. She was fine. This is about 2 women who died in 1996. Their names were Julie Williams and Lolly Winans. They were partners. They were very experienced outdoors people and people who love to hike. And they were murdered while on a hike. It happened one night when they were in their tent. Lolly's dog was with them, and so that was kind of surprising. So really the police very erroneously came to the assumption right away. No, not so much the police, I shouldn't say. I should say the park rangers who found them, and I guess kind of the police too initially were very set on thinking that this was a murder-suicide, which of course it was not at all. And so this book is about investigating this case that has not been solved, unfortunately. The author has kind of a tie, or feels an emotional tie, to these two women because she went to the same school as them. So when the 20th anniversary of the murders occurred, it kind of spurred the author, Kathryn Miles, into doing some investigation herself. And man, she just, it was really a heartfelt story. I think because of that connection, you can just tell that she emotionally felt very, very connected to these two women. It's an unsolved case, but the author does make a really good case for, you know, who she might think the murderer was. It was a really great book. It was a audiobook that was really hard to like stop, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to keep listening. I just was listening and listening and listening until it was done, and then I was like, oh man. So yeah, I definitely recommend that one. The second one from Libro FN this month was The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. And this is one I had heard about. I know I'd seen like the cover. It's got, here we go, this like lovely like kind of pink rainbowy color. This is one of those books where it's like a whole bunch of different people. You get a whole bunch of point of views and narratives, and somehow they all kind of fit together, and it's not always very evident at first. There's different narrators for each character for this audiobook, which I know some people enjoy. I don't think I don't know, I didn't like or dislike it. It was just like, that's how it is, I guess, for me. This is the one that I stopped. I think I was about like 45% of the way through, and I like picked it up one day and I was like, I'll give this another hour before I decide whether or not to put it down. And I give it like 10 minutes. So I was like, man, I just like really don't care about what's going on here. And I think that's a problem, is it's a book where I halfway in couldn't like discern a plot. I don't know if there is a plot because I didn't finish it, you know what I mean? But like halfway through, I feel like there should be, if there is a plot, I should have like come across it by now, right? Like, I don't know. So I got vibes from this kind of like I did when I was reading 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and that one's more like a family, and this one is like sometimes family and sometimes people who have different connections to each other and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's like they all fit together, and I don't know, I don't really know what to tell you besides that. I think this is a book that a lot of people will like. It's just not my type of book. And the last one that I listened to on audio that I don't have a physical representation of is The Resting Place by Camilla Sten, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. So this one is a thriller. I didn't love her one that was out last year, The Lost Village, and I liked this one more. I thought it was much more interesting, but it was just, it ended up being okay for me. This has two timelines. In the present timeline, we're following a young woman named Eleanor who has face blindness, so she cannot recognize faces. If she sees a face, she could see it again 5 minutes later and not know. This becomes a problem when she goes to have her weekly dinner with her grandmother, and she finds her grandmother dead, and she finds the killer inside the house, but the killer quickly escapes. So, you know, you have to imagine that it must be someone who knows she has face blindness like right away, right? Because otherwise they probably would have killed her too. And in the grandmother's will, she's left this countryside manor that she had no idea about. Eleanor's mother is dead, but her mother's sister Veronica is still alive, so Eleanor and Veronica are the last living descendants of the grandmother, and they go there to kind of sort things out and figure out the will situation. And Eleanor starts finding these journals from a maid who worked there in the 60s, when it was like before the children were even born, when her grandmother was a young woman just married, and some stuff happens while they're there, and they're kind of like trapped there. There's like a storm and stuff, and like things start to go bad while they're at the manor. And then the other timeline is the housemaid in the 1960s and what's going on with the family in that, which connects to, you know, the present day stuff, of course. And I think the problem with this is I didn't give a shit about anybody in the present day timeline. The thing that I found the most interesting was the 1960s timeline. None of the twists were all that surprising, but it was like, it wasn't enough to, you know, make me turn it off, you know what I mean? It was just like, okay, well, there's that, I guess. I kind of guessed that, but it was just fine. It was fine, I guess. So now on to the stuff that I have physically in front of me. First one here, The Conqueror Worms by Brian Keene. This was my pick for my 5-star prediction. I thought I would really like this. This seems to be one that a lot of people who like his stuff really love, and unfortunately this like just did not do it for me. We're following this like 80-year-old man, right? He's very fucking grumpy, and he is the narrator of the story, and like we're reading what he's writing. Like he's physically writing this down and we're here reading it. And I have to say, when an author does that, like the person has to be a good writer, otherwise it's gonna be really like boring, right? And like this guy was not a good writer, so it was just kind of boring. He's just like some fucking old guy. And so what's happening to him right now is that there's just been rain. There's been rain for like 80 days or something like that. And he lives in a mountain town that was mostly evacuated. He thinks he might be the only person left because he refused to go because he's just a grumpy old man, right? He finds out that he might not be alone, and there are these giant fucking earthworms that are starting to destroy his little town. And what is he gonna do? So like it's mostly that, but then in the middle we get this very abrupt POV change from somebody that this old man meets, right? And then it's like all this guy's story, and he is not interesting either, even though he's not an old man. And I don't know, it's just, it was very abrupt. I liked this even less than I liked the old man. I don't understand why. It was like the second half of the entire book was all what this guy's been doing. And he's just like somebody they met, and it's like, well, here's what I've been doing. And it's just like one of those guys who just will not shut up, and you're like trying to get away from him. Like you're at a family gathering. It's like, you know, somebody you don't enjoy in your family, or somebody you don't like at a party, and they just keep talking at you, and you're like trying to like politely leave the room, and they just keep following you and telling you this fucking story that you just don't care about. It was like that. I just didn't like it. I honestly don't know. It really was not much. There was not much about giant worms in here. You know, there's lots of books where I'm like, I can see why people don't like this, or I can see why people do like this. And this one I'm like, okay. So that was that. Okay, next here was a reread. This is, oh my god, oh my god, I'm at a loss for words. This is probably the third time, I would say. Maybe the third, maybe the fourth, I can't say for sure. I've read Heaven by V.C. Andrews, and this is the first book in her Castile family saga, right? So we're following Heaven, and she is a young girl who lives in the Appalachians. She has a very, very poor family, lots of kids. Her dad is frequently stepping out on the family. They live in a shack, you know, like they don't have clothes that fit. They have to walk 7 miles to school. She came up with every worst thing that you could think of. The worst things all happened Heaven and her poor family. Eventually, her stepmother leaves because of her father's philandering. I almost said philanthropy. She hates that he is generous. So what am I trying to say? The stepmother leaves, right? And then Heaven's like left to care for all of her siblings, and eventually her dad comes up with a plan for them to take them out of poverty, and it's, you know, not good. Still, I was very happy to find that I still really loved this. It's trashy, it's taboo, it's tremendously good. And yeah, I mean, that's all I can say about it. I'm so excited to pick up the next book in the series again. And this I listened to on audio, and I think this was on script, and the narrator was rather good. Okay, I also picked up The Tent by Kealan Patrick Burke. This is a novella. It's very short. It's about a family hiking, and they lose their son. They're like, what the heck? And then they come upon a tent in like somewhere where it kind of shouldn't be. And there's a light on inside, but it doesn't seem like there's anyone around or anyone inside. And you'll have to read it for yourself if you want to know more. I thought this was just all right. Okay, these next two books okay, so we took Lobby to the library over her spring break. She really likes mangas right now and graphic novels, so we were looking at like that section, and it was near the like young adult section of the library, and this was just like sitting by itself on a little thing, and I was like, oh, that's the next book in the series that I need to read. And so like there it is. I picked it up. I was like, is this a suggestion from the universe? And I think it was. So this is The Night of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Oh, sorry, The Night of the Dragon. First book is Shadow of the Fox. This is the third and final book of this series that I liked the first book okay. I really loved the second book, and then this one was also good. I didn't love it quite as much as the second, but it's still really good. This is about a secret kitsune girl named Yumiko, and she is living at a shrine, and she's been orphaned. She doesn't know who her parents are or who took her to the shrine, but there she is, and she's grown up there, and the priests at the shrine really want her to keep her fox demon thing, her yokai thing, like on the DL. They don't really want people to know about it, so she hasn't explored really her powers because she has been taught to see them as like a weakness and something bad and mischievous and things like that. So it really rocks her world when everyone at the shrine is slaughtered, and the secret scroll that the shrine attendants have been protecting is stolen, and Yumiko finds out that it's the second part to a scroll that will basically like resurrect this demon kind of a thing, and she has to stop it, and you know, she has to go out on her own, which she's never done, and you know, she might have to use some of her fox powers, which she's never done. And of course she meets up with some friends on the way. This is a really great like found family book, and a great book about friendship, and it has a little romance in it that is really sweet, and it's not like the central plot of the book and then the fantasy is built around it, you know what I mean? It's like, this is a fantasy story, and you know what, two characters you like might fall in love. More than two characters you like might fall in love. And I really like this third one. It really has high stakes, which I really appreciate, because I feel like a lot of, especially YA fantasy these days, they play it really safe, and this third and final book did not. And I have to say, my eyes got a little bit teary at some points when I was reading this, but it was really great conclusion to this. Then at the library, I also came across Basketful of Heads, which is by Joe Hill. It's a graphic novel, and I really liked this. This was great. This is about, what's her name? June. This is about June, and she's like college age, and she's visiting her boyfriend for the summer. He's been away working as like kind of like a intern cop over the summer as just a way to like gain experience and earn some money. End of the summer is coming and they've got some plans together. So, you know, she's visiting him and stuff, and she is going to meet the sheriff at their like hoity-toity house. They get the word that some of the prisoners from nearby Shawshank have escaped from prison, and so they've got to be on the lookout, got to be careful. And it turns out that those prisoners have invaded the sheriff's house, and the sheriff's gone to deal with this, right? So it's just like June and her boyfriend. They get separated and things go really wrong. June finds this axe at the sheriff's house because he has this like collection of Viking artifacts, and she chops the guy's head off and he keeps talking. So it's Basketful of heads, and I really liked this. I loved the colors that they used in this. I loved the artwork. I loved the storyline. June was really great. I loved the ending of it. I just thought that this was so much fun. Definitely worth, I mean, especially because this isn't a series. So you can spend one afternoon reading this and have a really great time, and there's no like huge commitment, you know what I mean? It's not like The Walking Dead where there's like 77 issues or some fucking crazy shit like that. I know already this video is gonna be so long. So I'm not really going to tell you about Sundial because I did a full review on that. If you'd like to watch that, you may do that at the video that I made of that. But I did really like Sundial by Catriona. I thought it was great. I just realized I forgot to talk about another book that I don't have a fucking physical copy of. That is Black Tide by Casey Jones, and this book comes out next month, May 31st. Let's see, what can I say about this? This book has a really interesting plot line. It's these two strangers who meet, they happen to hook up one night, and when they wake up, like an apocalyptic event has happened. The selling point for me is, I think, very important, but it doesn't mention this part of it in the synopsis, so I'm not really sure if I should tell you this, so I'm going to tell you right now. Spoilers. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. Kind of. I don't think it's a spoiler, but because this isn't mentioned in the synopsis, I'm wondering if it's intentionally left out or no. So spoilers right here. I'm gonna hold up my soda and then I'll put it down when I'm done. But this is an alien apocalypse novel. It's aliens, which is great. This is the best part of the book for me. So the best part of the book for me is something I'm not even sure if I can tell you about. If we're just talking about that aspect of it, that would make it such a great book. But the thing that really killed me is that there is a dog in this who is in distress the entire book. So like that really bothers me. But not only is he distressed, but he does get injured. And that really, really bothers me. I don't want to go into spoilers, of course, but that was the whole book. This is not something that I can skip over. The humans in this are not hurting him. It's not like somebody's being mean to him and this is happening, but I just, you know, and part of it's where they're in a car and he is dehydrated and it's like, oh my God, I just can't sit through this dog suffering this whole fucking book. And I did, and let me tell you, like, I kept thinking at some point, maybe it would be like, I don't know. I just don't even know what to say about it. It really bothered me. So I don't know what to say about this book because of that. Like the rest of the plot was like good, but the dog stuff bothered me so much and it was so pervasive in the entire book that it's like I can't. It was hard to read. It made me very upset. So if that doesn't bother you, go ahead. If it does, I don't know what to tell you because it made me upset. It's, I guess, all I can say about it. Which really sucks. I wish I could just like tell you that everyone should read this, but I can't. Next here is The Long Shadow of Small Ghosts by Laura Tillman. This is about a murder that happens in Brownsville, Texas. Oh gosh, when did this happen? 2003. So it's been quite a few years now. It's been almost 20 years. Can you believe that? That 2003 was 20 years ago? What the fuck? So, okay, sorry, time to get serious here because this is about two parents murdering their three young children, which is really terrible. It's about the crime, but a lot of this book is about the journalist investigating, learning about it, you know what I mean? So, I mean, not that like I want to go into lurid detail about what happened, but that is such a small part of this book. And one thing I found interesting was that she talks a lot about the history of Brownsville and why it is the way it is. It's a very poor part of our nation. It is a border town, and, you know, the problems with poverty and things like that that may have contributed to this crime. So that was interesting because, you know, it was about, you know, maybe why the crime had happened, but a lot of this was just about the journalist. And it was like, I was having flashbacks to when I read the book about Bob Berdella, and it was like talking about what the cops, like what baseball team the cops wanted to win that week. And it's like, I just don't give a shit. I just don't care. I'm not reading this for you, Laura Tillman. I'm reading this to learn about this crime. You know what I mean? I don't care about what you had for lunch. Not that she talks about that, but you know, it's just kind of inane things like that. Next, another true crime book. This is Unspeakable Acts by Sarah Weinman, and this is an anthology that she put together of different crime articles, and this is broken up into different like sections. Like there is one on narrative features, one that's called Where Crime Meets Culture. There is a justice, and then justice and society. I don't know, there's just so many different kinds of stories in this even, you know what I mean? There are pieces where they're talking about something that happened, where the crime happened to them. There's pieces where the journalist knew the people who committed a crime. There are, I don't know, there's just so many different things in here. I really thought this was a super great anthology, especially because it's like, you just get a snippet of a story, a really well thought out, put together story. These are journalists writing this, you know what I mean? So they know how to write and they know how to keep your attention. Okay, this one, oh gosh. This is Unmasked by Paul Holes, and this was kind of like a true crime, but also kind of a memoir. And I have to say, he has a really brilliant mind, and it seems like he can tune in very well to crime and perpetrators and, you know, the psychology behind crimes. So I think he solved a lot of really important crimes, but he doesn't seem like he's a very interesting human. So I don't know, you know, the stuff about crimes that he's been on was really interesting, but his home life and stuff like that, I was just like, oh gosh, I just don't know about this. I just don't know. And he's not a particularly interesting author. You know, this says with Robin Gabby Fisher, so I'm sure he wasn't out writing this by himself, but I don't know. I don't know what to think about that book. It's not one that I would recommend. It's just, maybe if you are like a Paul Holes super fan, but I just don't. He's just a dude, you know? Also this month I read Below by Laurel Hightower, which is a quick novella that gets very Mothman-y. And this is about, what's her name? Addie. And she is on a solo car ride. She is traveling to a horror con, which is so fun. And, you know, so she's somebody who loves the genre, which is just so endearing, of course, as people who love the genre. She meets a truck driver at a truck stop and she just gets really good vibes from him. And he's like, oh, this next part is kind of scary, but if you follow me, you know, I'll make sure that you make it through this mountain pass okay, and stuff like that. But something really bad happens, and the semi truck rolls off a hill, like down an embankment. Addie feels really obligated to stop, and, you know, she's compassionate, so it's not just an obligation. She wants to make sure this guy's okay because he was so helpful and nice to her. and things go terribly wrong from there. And there are lots of spooky red eyes, and there are lots of weird electrical problems and stuff like that, and this was just really perfect. It was just so good. And it was short and sweet, it was spooky, it has a great ending, and what more can I say about this? This is definitely one, if you love cryptid stuff, if you just love something that is a little bit different than a lot of stuff that I've read lately. If you want something different than stuff that I've read lately, check out below. I think Laurel Hightower just does so good with her characters, and she's able to like flesh these people out in such a short page count. It's really incredible. When she, you know, she did it again with Below. So what more can I fucking say? This last book here is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. This is based on the legend of Chang'e, the moon goddess. This follows Xingyin, who is the moon goddess's daughter, and she is like kind of not exactly supposed to exist. Her mother's been exiled to the moon. Her mother was once immortal, but she drank a potion that was gifted to Xingyin's father to make him immortal, but the mother drinks it and she becomes immortal, and then she's like banished to the moon because she wasn't supposed to do that. So she's like in charge of making sure the moon glows at night and things like that. And there are other like celestial royalty people. Xingyin has grown up knowing that she has some magic powers, but she's never supposed to use them because it will alert like the Empress and things like that. Basically, Xingyin eventually has to leave home to help her mother. She is hoping to win the Emperor's favor and ask for her mother's release, you know what I mean? So really, this book spans a lot of time. Xingyin eventually becomes like the companion of the Emperor's son, and I don't know, there's just like a war and stuff like that, and parts of this book I really enjoyed, but with how the plotline wrapped up, I just like don't need to read a sequel. Like, it wrapped up enough for me to be okay, and I can say, you know, I liked, you know, most of what I read, and that's fine with me. I don't feel like I need a sequel. I think the biggest thing with this is that I was really waiting for kind of more. I just needed something more, like some more punch, you know what I mean? A little more spice in this, not necessarily like spicy romance or anything like that. It's just like Xingyin was just a very normal character, and her love interest was a very normal character. Nothing in the plot was particularly surprising, I guess. I don't know, like it wasn't well written. It wasn't poorly written, I mean to say. It was well written. You know, I read the whole thing. It's like a 500-page book. But something about it was just like it was missing something to really capture me. I think that's another reason why, like, I'm just okay pretending, you know, that this is just a one-off book. I don't think that I'm going to read the sequel for this when it comes out. But I mean, I wouldn't say I don't recommend this. It was just like, there's something here that was lacking. I don't know. It just needed more punch. It needed more fruit punch. Okay, Jesus. This video has been so long. I don't look forward to editing this. These are the many books that I read this month. I'd, you know, of course, love to know if you read any of these and what you thought about them, what your favorite reads of the month were. And of course, I'd also like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.